This morning, Denver City Council will debate whether they need to change the city's standards for opening up warming shelters when the temperature drops.
9 News reporter Anusha Roy live outside the City and County building. Anusha, what changes are they going to be discussing today?
Yeah, good morning, Erica and Corey. Yeah, one of the biggest things that they're going to be discussing later this morning is opening up emergency shelters and warming shelters both at day and at night at 32 degrees instead of waiting until 20 degrees. If this sounds familiar, it is because the city has debated this before and it is still facing its fair share of challenges before making any changes here in Denver.
Interestingly, the city has actually adjusted the threshold over the years. It used to be 10 degrees and they actually changed it to 20. And that's, of course, a positive change. But I think the main barrier is just cost and logistics. And I don't necessarily mean dollars. I also mean kind of staffing and just it's a complicated system to activate the emergency shelter system.
You just heard from Council member Sarah Parody, who says that she has more hope this time around because of the mayor's initiative to house 1,000 people by the end of the year. She said in theory that means that they are helping fewer people living on the streets, and that could help out with some of the challenges she just talked about. We just checked with the city's dashboard this morning, and the total number of people who are still indoors is 583 people, with a handful of people who left the program for other shelter, jail, or another unknown reason. And again, that goal was 1,000 people by the end of this year. We also heard from the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, who said they are encouraged to see the city council proposing these changes. They said in part no one should be forced to sleep outside when it is freezing because of the lack of affordable housing and shelter. Again, this is going to be up for debate. That is starting at 10 a.m. today in the Safety Committee. Corey and Erica.
All right, Anusha, thank you so much. Former President Donald Trump's road back to the White House has hit a bump here in Colorado.
The state Supreme Court says Trump is an insurrectionist who is legally barred from being on the ballot. Now, as reporter Brianna Fernandez is following this, and Brianna, this ruling is sure to be appealed.
Exactly. So the decision to remove former President Donald Trump from the Colorado primary ballot is paused, taking effect until January 4th. So this delay will allow the Trump campaign to ask the Supreme Court to overturn that decision. So the Colorado Supreme Court ruled yesterday in a 4-3 ruling that former President Trump is disqualified from holding the presidency under the Constitution's insurrection clause. This marks the first time a state-level court has found Trump to be ineligible to return to the White House due to his actions on January 6th, the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Now, this ruling only applies right here in Colorado to the primary ballots. Those presidential primary ballots must be set by January 5th. Election day is March 5th, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But the Trump campaign promised to appeal. Corey, Erica.
All right, Brianna, thank you.
New this morning, we're hearing from Colorado's Secretary of State Jenna Griswold about this decision.
She says a case like this isn't so clear-cut because there's not a lot of related case law that already exists.
We've never had a president incite an insurrection and then try to run for the presidency again. You know, we'll see if the United States Supreme Court weighs in, and I, of course, will follow whatever court order or decision is in place by the time that we certify the ballot. Right now, the highest case that we have says that Donald Trump is disqualified because he disqualified himself when he tried to steal the presidency from the American people.
The Colorado Republican Party disagrees. They have fought this case alongside the Trump team. State Chair Dave Williams told us, quote, "Thank God the U.S. Supreme Court will get the final say against the out-of-control radicals in charge of Colorado who would rather spit on our Constitution than let the people decide which candidate should represent them in a free and fair election."
So what happens next? Trump's campaign spokesperson is already saying his team will appeal. And according to the Colorado Supreme Court, if the U.S. Supreme Court takes up the case quickly enough, Trump will stay on the ballot here. We're going to be following all angles of this case as it develops on air throughout the morning, as well as online on our 9 News app and 9 News Plus.
It is 6:06 on your Wednesday. Today, closing arguments start in the trial of the 2 paramedics charged in the death of Elijah McClain. The defense wrapped up its case yesterday. Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chakuniak are the 2 paramedics who injected McClain with ketamine in 2019. This happened after Aurora police stopped and threw the 23-year-old to the ground. McClain was unarmed and had done nothing wrong. He died a few days later. During the last day of testimony, jurors heard from a firefighter prosecutor who said her review of body camera footage backed up the decision to give McClain ketamine.
My opinion is that Mr. McClain, he seemed very strong. He had several officers on top of him. He was steadily aggressive. He kept moving around even though they were giving commands. He continued to fight even though they were on pressure points. So that would lead me to believe that he was suffering from excited delirium.
Kuchuniak and Cooper face charges of reckless manslaughter and assault. This is the last of 3 trials tied to McClain's death.
A teenager from Westminster is facing charges after federal prosecutors say he tried to join ISIS. FBI agents arrested him at DIA on Monday before he got on a plane to the United Arab Emirates. Court documents show law enforcement first started looking into the 18-year-old in November of 2021 when a social media company flagged suspicious activity. Investigators say he was posting messages of support for ISIS and talking with other ISIS supporters. Last September, he started talking to FBI agents posing as supporters. He told them he wanted to join ISIS as a fighter. He's charged with trying to provide support to a foreign terrorist organization.
This week, more migrants crossed into the U.S. from Mexico than any other day in history. More than 12,000 people crossed over on Monday. Now they're waiting in long lines to be processed. In Texas, it's now a state crime to cross the border illegally. In Maverick County, the jail is almost completely full. The county sheriff there says resources are stretched thin and they need a lot more people to help handle the number of migrants coming into the U.S. and now into their jails.
New data from the U.S. Census Bureau shows the number of immigrants in the U.S. is actually driving the overall population growth. In the past year, the U.S. added 1.6 million people. More than 2/3 of those people were immigrants from all over the world. It was a similar case last year, too. Most of the population growth is happening in the South, which the Census Bureau defines as the stretch from Texas to Delaware.
All right, one thing to know about the weather for today. It's another warm day ahead. Temperatures right now in the low 40s for us across most of the metro area. A few 20s in northern Weld County, but we'll get up into the low 60s here in Denver for today. Still well above our seasonal average of 43 degrees. That said, it's still, I guess, a bit cooler than yesterday's high of 67, which, by the way, tied a daily record yesterday. Today, a record 69. Probably won't get there, but still 61, not bad for the end of December.
Not bad.